It's been a long off-season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this: FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. Age and state restrictions apply. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS-ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
You know, human beings are famously short-term thinkers. The slightest move in the market. Panic! Sell, sell, sell! It's going up. Rich. More money, more money. Everything's on the up and up. Everything is in the moment. Short term, good, bad, panic, celebration. We have a hard time with long term. So let me ask you this. How much long term would you sell for a little bit of short term glory? How much would you give up for a Super Bowl ring? How much would you give up for a Lombardi trophy? Because I've got one NFL owner who'd give up it all. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and in live moving pictures on ESPN News. You can join the conversation. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Is Khalil Mack going to be a Raider, a Jet, or elsewhere in the NFL this year? And for that matter, if Khalil Mack's on the move, what's he worth? Let me ask you this. As long as we're talking about long-term sell for short-term gain, what would you give up for Tom Brady? How much would you trade for Brady's services for the next couple of years? And why it's absolutely absurd that Odell Beckham Jr., with $95 million falling out of his pocket, feels like a zoo animal when people ask for a little selfie. All that's coming up on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app within the next hour. But first, let's start with this. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones went on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, and he said the following. What would you give up, Jerry? What would you pay for a 4th Lombardi trophy? For a 6th for the Dallas Cowboys? Jerry said the following. It would be embarrassing. It would be shocking if you knew the size of the check I would write if it guaranteed me a Super Bowl. And it would be obscene. There's nothing that I would not do financially not to get that Super Bowl. So that's a given. That's a real given. First of all, if you ever find yourself an owner in the life of your sports fandom, if you ever cheer for a team and you find yourself with an owner who comes even within a football field of a statement like that, if you ever cheer for a team and it's owned by a man who would do something embarrassing, would write an obscene check for just one more championship, hold on to it tight. That's true love. This is everything a fan ever wants from an owner. This is all you can ever ask for. Yesterday I went on First Take. I hung out with Andrew Hawkins, a former NFL player, and Jason Fitz, co-host of Spain and Fitz here on ESPN Radio following me. And by the way, Jason Fitz is going to join me a little bit later in the show. And Jason Fitz had the nerve, the unmitigated gall, the backbone to tell me that Jerry Jones statement, it just sounds a little bit thirsty. I don't know about passionate. It's a little bit pathetic. What are you talking about? This is what you want, you need, you pray for. What do you want? You want the Cincinnati Bengals ownership? You want Mike Brown? You want an owner who's interested in profit? You want an owner worried about his own pockets, unwilling to spend on free agents? You want an owner who prioritizes his checkbook over your championships? This is everything, folks. This is what you want. This is the dream owner. This is passion. This is not pathetic. And for that matter, while we're on it, and I don't think this is necessarily a Dallas Cowboys related thing. I don't think I'm being a homer. When we're talking about what you want from an owner, we should also talk about what it is you want from a fan. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. What's a good fan? Because as far as I'm concerned, the way that Dallas Cowboys fans are being painted by certain members of the media, certain people that walk around these hallways, certain people that have a radio show that might precede mine, and certain people that I'd call a friend, well, it's just downright slanderous. This is Stephen A. Smith on Dallas Cowboys fans.
Nothing in America is worse in the world of sports than a Cowboys fan. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Couldn't find Cowboy fans when all of those years of ineptitude. But then, when they become respectable, Cowboy fans resemble little cockroaches and ants, sniffing and smelling food. And all of a sudden, they come from everywhere, acting like they've been winning all along.
For nothing. How do you not laugh? Even when it's aimed at you. Even when it's offensive. How do you not acknowledge that it's funny? But it's ridiculous. Is that not what a fan is supposed to be? Hell, it's short for fanatic. What's the definition of a good fan? One that only shows up during the winning years? A front runner? Or one that year in, year out believes this is our year? A one that might, yes, Stephen A., survive an atomic blast like a cockroach. One that sticks, thick and thin, good and bad, like a marriage vow. Isn't a fan one who is there, regardless of the winning percentage, regardless of the hope? Let me tell you something. I truly don't find this a Dallas Cowboys segment. I find this a what do you want segment. What do you want in ownership and what do you want in fandom? Because I want an owner that's talking like Jerry Jones, that would write an obscene check to keep my team in championship contention. And I want a fan who's like a cockroach, who's there, surviving that blast, surviving those bad times, surviving 1-15. I want a fan base that doesn't know anything about front running. As far as I'm concerned, that's good fans and that's good ownership. Now I ask you this. How big do you think the check would be? What would Jerry write? Like, just ballparking it here. I wonder what's an obscene check for Jerry. What's an embarrassingly large check for one more Super Bowl trophy? Let's just ballpark it here. If you had to put zeros on it, how big's that check, Rudy?
$100 million?
$100 million.
Is that too high?
I think it is.
Really? I don't think it's too high. I think if he could write a $100 million check for a Super Bowl, he would do it. The salary cap's like half that anyway.
$100 million?
That's probably worth it for him.
I mean, I don't know why I find that obscene. I think the number I was going to put out was $50 million.
50 seems like a steal. He's going to have to pay Dak that in a couple years anyway, so who cares?
The truth of the matter is, this is like you and me talking about what's the distance between the Earth and Pluto. I don't know. You think it's like, how many miles is that? I don't know.
A billion?
I don't know. Is it half a billion? Like, these are numbers that we can't comprehend. I mean, what's the difference between 50 million and 100 million? I don't know. I've never experienced anything in the realm. It's impossible to project ourselves into the meaning of those numbers.
But it is the most valuable sports franchise in the world. Like, they're worth like probably upwards of $4 billion.
I was going to guess way more. I was going to say like 500 million he would do.
What's it worth? What's Forbes' number at the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I just looked up his net worth real quick, and supposedly he's $5.6 billion.
So you think he'd write?
So that's what's what?
What'd you say? 500 million?
Nothing.
That's like 1/9 of his worth, right?
You think he'd write 1/9 or 1/10 of his net worth for one Lombardi Trophy?
I mean, if you can believe what he's saying, I would think so.
Jerry, I know you have a radio deal with the Fan in Dallas, but just for 10 seconds, you could even maybe stretch it out to 30. Could you give us a call? I'd just like to know what's the definition of an obscene check. What's embarrassingly large? Just 30 seconds. That's all I need, Jerry. You can even disguise your voice, but just let me know behind the scenes that it's you. You could do like a funny disguise voice, like pinch your nose or something so it doesn't violate your contract.
I would love to hear a funny disguise voice from Jerry Jones.
It's Jerry from the messed up syntax.
Yep.
The messed up diction and syntax would let us know no matter how many times he does this, that it's really Jerry. It'd be impossible for him to hide it. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Okay, so let me ask you this. If we're talking about what a trophy is worth, what a Super Bowl window is worth, let me ask you this. Let's make this real. Let's take it from money. Let's take it to trade. What would you trade for Khalil Mack? He could help put you into contention. What's that worth? What's Khalil Mack worth? How much in trade? And for that matter, let's up the ante. What if I told you could have the best quarterback in the game for a tight window the next 2 to 3 years? What would you give up for Tom Brady? The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
I don't think the Raiders made an offer in months.
If you're the Raiders and somebody comes at you with a first-round draft pick, you have to at least listen to it, right?
Zero chance that the Raiders trade Khalil Mack.
He's going to sit out as long as he feels he needs to. It does rest in John Gruden's hands.
You give me a first and a second for a 27-year-old pass rusher? Gone. See ya.
Are the Raiders broke or something?
If I'm the Raiders, either I'm going to make a deal with Khalil Mack, I'm going to approach him, or I'm going to make a deal with another team.
Yeah, but what's Khalil Mack worth? I mean, right there, in that montage of clips we played on the lead-in here to the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, I heard numbers thrown around from a first-round draft pick to a first and a second to reports are reportedly, so that's how you say reports, that the Raiders want 2 ones, and then whoever trades for Khalil Mack's going to have to give up a max contract as well. Let's get to what you'd trade for Khalil Mack here in just a little bit on the Will Cain Show. But Jerry Jones says he'd write an obscenely large check, an embarrassing check, for the Dallas Cowboys to have one more Lombardi trophy. I want to move this beyond what an obscenely large check is, how much you'd pay. I want to start asking what you'd give up. Like how much in trade, how much in assets would you give up for a chance at the Super Bowl? Because John Lynch, the general manager of the San Francisco 49ers, was on the Pardon My Take podcast with Big Cat and PFT commenter on the Barstool Network. And he said the following about the 49ers and their negotiations for Jimmy Garoppolo. He said, we were calling about Jimmy, and we did have that conversation and got quickly rebuffed, Lynch said on the Barstool Sports Pardon My Take podcast. I guess I figured, what the heck? You got to take your shot, right? You can't score if you don't shoot. So I had to summon up the courage and asked Bill Belichick what he'd take for Tom Brady. Bill Belichick laughed and basically hung up on me. But hey, look, I took my shot. First of all, totally respect John Lynch and his shot-taking philosophy on life. He said this, which was Wayne Gretzky's famous coach quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Big, big believer.
It's actually Michael Scott's quote.
Is that right?
Yeah, get it right.
What did Michael Scott in The Office say that he pioneered that quote? Was that he thought it
No,
up?
he just crossed off Wayne's name and wrote Michael Scott.
Really?
On the poster, yeah.
Totally respect, not Michael Scott, but John Lynch's outlook here on shot taking. But it does bring up, what would you give up for Tom Brady? If Jimmy Garoppolo were off and the San Francisco 49ers were in on Tom Brady, what do you give up for Tom Brady? For that matter, let's just say the Patriots had held on to Garoppolo and they were willing to trade Brady either last year or this year. What would you trade for a 40-year-old quarterback at the top of his game? I mean, think about and put yourself in the shoes of somebody whose Super Bowl window is now. To me, the best example of this is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've got the defense. They've got the running back. They don't have the receivers. But if they had Tom Brady, do the Jacksonville Jaguars not immediately become the favorites in the AFC to make the Super Bowl? Simultaneously taking the Patriots out of the equation by taking Tom Brady off the roster and putting him on your roster. Super Bowl windows are tight. Moments aren't long. So Tom Brady has how many years left in his prime? 1, maybe 2. 3 if you're aggressive. How much would you trade for 3 years of Tom Brady? Because I think that conversation starts with 2 number ones. Don't you think? Like if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you don't walk away from somebody saying 2 number ones for your Super Bowl window. So here's the question. If Jerry Jones is willing to write an obscene check for a Super Bowl trophy, should the Jacksonville Jaguars, in this hypothetical, be willing to trade 2 firsts for theirs? Does that sound obscene to you, Cerruti? 2 ones for Tom Brady.
I think you convinced me, and I would honestly, I think there are more teams. Like if I was Minnesota and I knew this before I offered Kirk Cousins, I would easily give up whatever it took to get Tom Brady. You're in the same boat.
What are those 2 ones going to bring in the next couple of years?
Exactly. You're rebuilding that anyway.
So let's push it to the limit. What is the max you'd give up to have the best quarterback in the game, all due respect to Aaron Rodgers and his new $180 million deal and the love he's getting on shows from First Take to every other network on every other dial at every other hour of the day, but to have the best quarterback in the game, Tom Brady, who could scoreboard any debate in that argument, come over to your team for 2 to 3 years. Let's push to the limits. What is it?
About 2 1s and 2 2s.
I think you're getting there, to be honest. Now, you answer that question for me. 888-729-3776. And you're right. You can expand that beyond the Jags. How many teams think their window is now? We know how short those windows are and how quickly they close. So how many teams are in that bucket of window is now, quarterback like Tom Brady would make it happen? And then you can draw that out because you say, well, if you give up that for Tom Brady, does Khalil Mack put anybody over the top? See, we have the biggest problem trying to establish a market and trade in the NFL. I have no idea what Khalil Mack is worth. I have no idea if it's a 1, 2 1s, a 1 and a 2. I have no idea. And I don't think anybody does because you're just not comps in the NFL. But maybe the way to think about it is this. What would you give up? Maybe the way to think about it is the way that Jerry presented this. An obscene check. Now just change the word check to trade asset. An obscene trade asset to put you in your window right now. Cole in Georgia. You're on the Will Cain Show, Cole.
Hey, Will, how you doing?
I'm good.
I would give up 2 number ones for Khalil Mack right now. I'd give up my firstborn, too.
Has he been born yet, Cole?
No, this is hypothetical.
It's always easier when it's hypothetical. You put that to me, I'm like, I really do like Charlie. Before I let go of Cole, really quick, Cole, who's your team? Falcons?
Yeah.
All right, so you guys are in that range. You're in that window. You're in that moment. So you'd give up 2 1s for Khalil Mack right now, thinking what? He puts you over the top? He's the one that capitalizes on your window for a Super Bowl as a Falcon fan?
Yeah, I think he puts the defense over the top. And what are you really giving up with 2 number ones? I mean, you're giving up hopes and dreams. So,
all right, Cole. Appreciate it. Good stuff. I didn't mean to cut you off. Wonder what that goal.
Have a good one.
Oh, okay. Are you still there? All right. See you, man. I love Cole, man. We should rank our callers. Where do you think Cole comes in right now? He's a top 5er, right,
top
Bubba?
3, I would say.
Top 3?
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
he's been with us from the beginning.
Without a doubt.
And he's had some gems.
He's had some gems.
He's also even featured in production.
He's like you, and that's why you like him. Doesn't come in. What I'm saying is, doesn't come in over the top. Doesn't come in off the top rope. Slides in under the bottom rope.
Very subtle.
Yeah, subtle. You don't see him coming.
So Cole's a fraud, is what you're saying.
Oh, Travis is here today. Great.
All right, the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. All right, what would you give up for Tom Brady or Khalil Mack for that matter? What would you give up for your Super Bowl window? Let's start with 2 ones. I need to do something. I need to revisit my top 5 fictional quarterback list. I have some sins that I made, and I need to atone. And so I've expanded it drastically. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will be, quote, as happy as a clam, unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately verify clams even experience the complex human emotional state known as happiness. As an invertebrate mollusk living half submerged on the ocean floor with no arms, legs, or wireless access, what's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today. Pronounced regionally as chowder. Chowder. Oh, that's so fun to say. What were we talking about again?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Yesterday, I laid out the risks I think the Green Bay Packers are taking by giving such a large percentage of their salary cap, such a huge chunk of their fixed revenues to Aaron Rodgers. Whatever you give in one place takes away from another. It's not an indictment of Rodgers or how great he is. It's only an indictment of how much money you give to one position. You rob from Peter to give to Paul. So whatever you give to Rodgers, you don't give to a defensive end. But Kevin Clark of The Ringer has written that the salary cap hit isn't as large as you think. And as the salary cap goes up, the Packers may very well be able to take Rodgers' contract and still thrive. He's going to be joining us here in about 15, 20 minutes on the Will Cain Show. I'm also asking you, what would you give up for your shot at a title window? Jerry Jones would give up an obscene check, an embarrassingly large check for one more Lombardi trophy. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, would you give up 2 ones for a shot at that same Lombardi trophy? Would you give up 2 number 1 picks for Tom Brady had it been Garoppolo instead of Brady that the Patriots had chosen to ride into the future? And if we're doing this, and if we're making these kind of trades, we might as well do one that's realistic, that's available, that's on the market. What would you give up for Khalil Mack? Because he's out there for the getting. Would you give up for 2 ones if you thought Khalil Mack put you over the top? All that's coming up straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. But first, a couple of days ago, I put out my top 5 fictional quarterbacks of all time. My list included, coming in at number 1, Johnny Utah from Point Break and Shane Falco from The Replacements at number 2. It also had guys like Matt Saracen, Willie Beeman, and Jonathan Moxon from Varsity Blues. But I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on Instagram saying I had ignored, I had missed many, many guys out there. And I think chief among them was probably Paul Blake from Necessary Roughness. So I thought, let me do this right. Let me revisit this and give it the attention it deserves. So I now have for you, unveiling here on the Will Cain Show, for the first time ever, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 fictional quarterback lists for your listening pleasure. Let's start with this. The unrealized potential quarterback. I have several categories, and we have grouped them according to the kind of quarterback and the character they were. Let's start with the unrealized potential quarterback. These are the guys that never quite made it. Jason Street from Friday Night Lights. Old Matt Saracen would never have a shot if Jason Street didn't end up in that wheelchair. And what could have been with Jason Street? On this list also is Shane Falco from The Replacements. He had a little comeback story, a little shot at glory to come back. Remember, it wasn't at the Sugar Bowl? It was always in Shane Falco's head. Never quite got over what happened in the Sugar Bowl. What could have been with Falco? You know, Moxon would never have his shot if not for Lance Harbor's knee injury. Lance Harbor at Varsity Blues, unrealized potential. Let us never forget Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Huge, unrealized potential guy. Could throw it over a mountain. Cannon arm. Aaron Rodgers got nothing on Uncle Rico. And my favorite quarterback, Johnny Utah from Point Break. That knee being blown out in the Rose Bowl took away what could have been a glorious professional career. Let's move on. Now for your troubled quarterbacks. Working our way up from the bottom, Johnny Walker from Johnny Be Good was just never going to work out for Johnny. Too many recruiting visits, too many enticements, too much to lead Johnny in the wrong direction. How about Jimmy Dix from The Last Boy Scout? It's been a while since I've seen this one, to be honest, but wasn't there a lot of drugs and problems? He ended up being a crime fighter with Bruce Willis, right, in some way?
Yeah.
Jimmy Dix.
What an opening scene.
Was that the one where the guy had the gun in his locker and came out?
Well, yeah, and then he put it in his socks.
Did he shoot it on the field?
Yeah.
As he ran for a touchdown?
But yeah.
I mean, you could spoil the movie. It came out how many years ago? Okay.
I'm not trying to avoid spoilers. I'm trying to remember.
Bubba was. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid. But no, people should watch. Great beginning.
How about this? Not unlike Johnny Walker from Johnny Be Good, Cush. Frank Cushman. It's just untrustworthy in the end. Gave his promise to Jerry Maguire. Flipped there at the end. Old Cush's ego was a little too big. Paul Crewe from The Longest Yard. I'm going to tell you a story. Never seen the movie. Just everybody tweeted him in.
Either one?
No, neither of them.
Okay.
Do I need to?
Yeah. Maybe the first one.
And top of the list for troubled quarterbacks, this guy was one of the most common responses to a guy that I left off. Joe Cain from the program. Had a little drinking problem senior year. The Heisman pressure was just too much. Joe Cain had his ups and downs. Life is tough as a big-time quarterback. By the way, let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr. a little bit later in the show on Life is Tough when you're a celebrity. Next list, the wily vet quarterback. This one's shorter. Paul Blake from Necessary Roughness. How about Cap Rooney from Any Given Sunday? Willie Beeman took his job. And, this guy gets a bad rap. But old Eddie Martell from The Replacements, Shane Falco came in, but let's not forget that Eddie Martell had that team in contention on a regular basis. Wasn't Eddie Martell like a year in, year out, like Pro Bowler? He was big time. And just because he didn't want some scab coming in and taking his job while he was on strike, let's not just put Eddie Martell in the bad guy bracket. Finally, the backup quarterbacks that we all root for. Or at least that we're supposed to root for. Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday, Jonathan Moxon from Varsity Blues, and Matt Saracen from Friday Night Lights. Those are your backup quarterbacks. They become everybody's heroes. 3 of those guys, all 3 of them made my top 5 list. I guess I have a thing for the underdog. I'm that fan that always is cheering for the backup. Always wants the quarterback controversy, I guess.
Big Cooper Rush fan.
I'm not, Bubba.
It's tough to be right now.
I know. I was in on the Teddy Bridgewater trade. What do you think? Did that leave anybody off? I gave you...
I think you named every quarterback.
I tried to name every single fictional quarterback. There's one from Heaven Can Wait that I didn't put in there. Oh, Reno Hightower from The Best of Times didn't make it. I didn't know how to categorize a few guys. Anyway, that's pretty much your movie quarterback list. You got to fall in one of those categories. Wily quarterback, backup, unrealized potential, or troubled. Those are your 4 quarterback archetypes for the movies. All right. Is Aaron Rodgers' contract a problem for the Green Bay Packers? We'll talk to Kevin Clark next. And what would you give up for your Super Bowl window with Tom Brady or Khalil Mack in trade? That's all straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Green Bay Packers could have handed Aaron Rodgers a blank check.
Major news from the NFL. Aaron Rodgers believed to be a 4-year, $134 million extension.
This guy is as competitive as any quarterback I've ever been around.
The money's nice. Of course it's nice, but the juice is the respect.
He has earned everything that has ever come his way.
He's worth $100 million. It's not a question that he's worth that money.
Have I overstated the concerns about Aaron Rodgers' contract for the Green Bay Packers? And what would you give up for your Super Bowl window? What would you give up for Tom Brady? Or more realistically, what would you give up for Khalil Mack? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. What do you say, Srudy? Is he into the Bamba trade? You guys talking a little Magic?
Big Bamba fan.
Big into. Yep. What about Jonathan Isaac?
We're fans of the front court.
Yeah, really?
Yep. Big question is Aaron Gordon. Can he take the next step?
Right.
We don't know that yet.
Right.
Trade's always a possibility, though.
Par for the course here. Kevin Clark of the Ringers on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Srudy's just jawing him. I can't even say it. And I've got those bad phrases in my head. You know what it is when you're all in somebody's ear? He's just magic talk. Hey, what do you think about Bamba with Kevin Clark right before he jumps on the Will Cain show? So what, you big on Bamba, Kevin?
I'm big, as Steve said, I'm big on the front court, and it's the best case scenario. We won't score enough points to win a lot of games, and then we'll get a top 5 pick next year. We'll be able to build with a shooter, and all of a sudden we're in business in 2020.
Boom. You guys worked it out right before you even have to talk about Khalil Mack. So next year, you're back in the business. You got Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett, and before you know it, you're in championship contention, right? That's the way it works?
Absolutely. 2021 champions.
The Ringer's Kevin Clark here on the Will Cain Show. Listen, man, yesterday, and I mean, people have accused me of being a hater, so maybe that's what's going on here, but I looked at the initial back of the envelope on Aaron Rodgers' deal, and I'm looking at $33 million, on average annual over the next couple of years for Aaron Rodgers. With incentives, it looked like it could get up to $37 million. Right now, that's around 20% of the salary cap, and that's just way more than any team has ever spent on the quarterback position and remained in title contention or won a Super Bowl. Let's put it that way. Now, I understand these NFL contracts are arcane, and it's almost impossible to tell what the actual salary cap implication is. But I know you have a column up saying, hey, it's not that bad for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, right?
Yeah, I mean, so essentially the cap keeps rising $10, maybe $12 million each year. It has risen double digits every year since 2012. And when you get into the situations, the cap will be $200 million soon. This is not the contract we thought we were going to see. One of the things bandied about from people inside the league is maybe he ties it to a percentage of the salary cap so it always rises. Maybe he has a kicker in his deal where he's able to adjust every time another quarterback gets paid. None of that happened. And so essentially the Packers have cost certainty. You're going to see there were already 3 quarterbacks next year who are going to make over $30 million against the cap. He's just going to be the 4th one. There might be a 5th one in there somewhere depending on who's next. And so I just feel like there were a lot of scenarios in which the Packers could be pulled from contention if they gave him the wrong contract. This is not one of those. I think that in 2 or 3 years, $30 million will just be the cost of doing business as far as an elite quarterback goes.
Okay, but there's 2 different things here. And talking to Kevin Clark of The Ringer on the Will Cain Show, did he get a market rate deal? That answer has to be yes. When Matt Ryan's making $30 million a year, Aaron Rodgers is worth $34, right? And I think you're right, because the nature of the game, the next guy's going to make some stupid number of money as well. Even a guy that's probably not worth it, to be honest. That's what the market for quarterbacks ends up doing. But what I'm more interested in is, does it pull you out of contention based on the percentage of salary cap that one guy, no matter how good he is eating up? And I did this yesterday, and I said, look, just looking at 25 years of Super Bowl winning teams, no team has spent more than 7% of their cap on, or not that, the average spent is about 7% of the cap for a Super Bowl winning team. And he's way above that. The Packers are way above that. So doesn't that concern you?
It definitely does concern me. I think there's 2 ways to win in the NFL. The number one is to spend no money on your quarterback. I mean, obviously, since the Seahawks won in 2013, I think Russell Wilson made less money than the punter on that team and the long snapper on that team. That's all you need to know about how they spent their money back then. I think we've sort of known that post-2011 CBA, the quickest way to win is have a rookie quarterback who's really good and spend that money somewhere else. The Eagles last year, they would not have been able to go out and get Alshon Jeffrey last year. Guys like Ronald Darby, real difference makers that they were able to get and be aggressive because they were paying their quarterback $7 million and not $25 million. Even Nick Foles was a luxury they were able to have because they weren't spending $25 million on a quarterback. So, yes, that concerns me, but the other way to compete is just to have a really, really good quarterback. Matt Ryan made the Super Bowl 2 years ago and probably should have won it, and he was making a lot of money against the cap. Not over 30 like he is now, but he was still one of the highest paid guys in the league. And so I just feel like, is Aaron Rodgers enough to overcome the 3 or 4 guys you would miss by with that cap? Yeah, I mean, he is. I think there's probably 2 or 3 guys, him, Brady, Breeze. Those are the guys who teams can afford to pay because he's better than the offensive weapons you'd surround him with an extra $10 million.
Right. But the real key is what you just said. There's only about 3 or 4 guys like that. And what we're going to see in the market is guys who are not in that category but still get the same kind of money. That's going to be happening soon. But really quick, Khalil Mack's on the market. Well, maybe. We don't know for sure what's going on with the Raiders and Khalil Mack. What would you give up? What do you think's a fair market in trade for Khalil Mack?
If you are a team that can win the Super Bowl now and you're so good you're going to have a late first-round pick, I think you give up a 1 and maybe a 3. I think that it's crazy, especially if you're a top 10, top 15 possibility. I mean, if you're the New York Jets right now, I just don't think you can. Obviously, you gave up a lot of capital to get Darnold, so it's not even feasible. But if you're a team like that who's on the upswing, I wouldn't do it. But if you're a Minnesota Vikings or a team like that who thinks they're on the cusp of something great, I would have no problem giving up a late first and then a 3. I would not give up 2 first-round picks. I just don't think you can project 2 years. And, what if it's going to be a top 5, top 10 pick? You cannot protect picks like you can in the NBA. I just think there's no way that one defensive player is worth 2 picks.
But you changed that, right? So I did a hypothetical based upon what John Lynch said when he called on the Pardon My Take podcast. He said he took his shot with Brady, right? When it looked like he couldn't trade for Garoppolo, he asked Belichick about Brady. Let's play that hypothetical, just because I like setting markets. I'm curious. Like, say you're the Jags. Yeah. What would you give up for Tom Brady if he were on the market? Even at age 40, what would you give up?
I think you'd give up I think you'd give up a 1, and then I think you'd give up a future 2. Maybe next year's 1 and the 2 the year after. Something like
more,
that.
Kevin.
I think that at
age
age 40, I don't know. I mean, you have to remember, Will, we're in unprecedented waters with these quarterbacks and their aging. We don't know how these guys are supposed to age. Drew Brees is 39. Tom Brady's in his 40s. We don't know when it's supposed to drop off. It could be Brady this year drops off.
You waiting
it
on the
could
cliff?
Be.
You think the cliff's coming?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we don't know how these guys are supposed to age. I mean, they're not 32, 33. We've never seen a generation of quarterbacks like this. I'd be very, very hesitant to give up 2 1s.
All right. Good stuff, man. Hang in there. I'm sure Zion Williamson will put you over the top, okay, on Orlando. I appreciate having you on. Thanks, Kevin. It's Kevin Clark of The Ringer. All right, coming up, Odell Beckham Jr. went on LeBron's HBO show and said he feels like a zoo animal. Being a celebrity is tough. Being rich is tough. Talk about it next on The Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
It's been a long offseason without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this: FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. Age and state restrictions apply. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Odell Beckham Jr. is here to tell you that celebrity is a little bit like being a zoo animal. That sometimes having $95 million in worldwide fame is just a real bummer. It can get you down. It's a hard knock life out there for celebrities. I'm going to get to that in just a moment on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. And you can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. But first, Danny in Texas. You're on the Will Cain Show, Danny. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Will?
What's up, man?
All right, yeah, no, definitely. I was saying for Brady, I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan, and I feel like our window is right now. I mean, you still have Zeke on a rookie contract. You have a defense that's surprising everyone this preseason. You have the offensive line. And, hell, I mean, Brady has, 3 years at best? So, hey, I'm taking advantage of that. I'll give up 2 1s. I mean, if they want to play hardball, I'll throw 2 3s in there, maybe get a 5th back. Give us Brady 3 years. If we win 2 rings in those 3 years, I'll take it. We've been waiting 22 years, so I'm down with it.
All right, thanks for the call, Danny. I bet that 5th you threw in there probably was that's probably what swung the deal at the end, don't you think? 2 1s, 2 3s, and send a 5th back just to even it out.
Even you would admit, you guys aren't, if you get Brady, you're not, 2 rings is insane. Obviously, you would take that. You guys aren't that close.
I mean, look, man, I understand that sometimes you yell hot take and homer at me, but I truly do agree with Danny that the Cowboys are in their window. I think they're in their window. The question is how big it is. They were 13-3 2 years ago, and in a down year, they were 9-7. Do I think Tom Brady would help put them over the top? Yeah, I love Dak, but you got to acknowledge Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. And if you have an opportunity in your window to upgrade to the greatest of all time, you got to give up some stuff. The difference with the Cowboys and say the Jags is, I think the Cowboys' window is set up for a while with Dak. That's what I had to have a hard time trading away. Giving away the picks is one thing, but moving on from what Dak can become is the harder part of the equation. Moving on from Blake Bortles, that ain't hard. If I'm the Jags and Tom Brady's sitting there for 2 1s, where do I sign? Because all I'm giving up is the 2 picks. I'm not giving up on a guy I already have in-house that I'm grooming for my window. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance, and remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. LeBron James has a new show on HBO. It's called The Shop, and he invites several famous athletes and celebrities in general to come in and talk about, chop up, real-world issues. On the inaugural episode, which just aired, he had Odell Beckham Jr., Maverick Carter, Michael Bennett, Jon Stewart, of the former host of The Daily Show, and I think, was that Victor Cruz in there as well? I didn't get to see the whole show. I've only seen clips, but I thought maybe I saw Victor Cruz in a photo as well. I'm not sure. But Odell Beckham Jr. and LeBron, for that matter, are the two making noise today, making news based upon some things they said. Here's what Odell Beckham Jr. said. To me, I be feeling like, I tell people this all the time, I really feel like a zoo animal. Like, that's where life's gone for me. You know, you used to take your kids to the zoo, and we used to be like, I want to see the lions, or let's go see the lions. And you go out there, and the lions are laid out. You know what I mean? And it's like, why aren't they doing lion stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I've got people who call out, Odell, dance. Like, I'm a show punk. I'm a show monkey or something. Like, I'm a puppet. You know what I mean? And it's like, that doesn't feel good. But it's like, damn, that's what life's become. But can you really ever detach from that? That's Odell Beckham Jr. on the price of celebrity. What I'm here to say is this. Cry me a river. Odell Beckham Jr. is a celebrity. He's a celebrity that makes $95 million. He makes, on average, $18 million a year. He's an entertainer. He signed up to be in the public spotlight. He didn't just sign up for it, he sought it out. When I say sought it out, he sought it out more than your average professional athlete. He has extravagant end zone celebrations. He is courting the spotlight. From what I understand, he courts the paparazzi. Everything from his look, his style, to his behavior yells, look at me. And that's fine. Not only do I not have a problem with that, on occasion I enjoy that. But what I can't accept is that you then turn around and act like when everybody does look at you and everybody wants to talk to you, that it's somehow this big bummer in life, that it's this big problem. I don't deny that it might be annoying from time to time, that there are entitled people out there, that are rude people out there. I don't deny that that can at times, if Odell doesn't 100% of the time want to be on, be annoying. But it is such a small price to pay for the life not only you wanted, but you loved and sought out. If you want to know real world problems, ask the guy working the double shift at Denny's. Ask him if he'd trade for your problems. Ask him if he has some sympathy for the fact that somebody excited to see you wanted to take a selfie. Again, there are rude people out there. There are entitled people out there. But those people exist for everyone. That waiter at Denny's, how many times a day do you think he deals with rude, entitled people on a daily basis? You're telling me $95 million didn't cure the society's ills? Didn't shield you from the fact there's entitled, rude people in the world? Please. This reeks of celebrity losing touch with the world. These aren't real problems. This is a minor irritation. This isn't something that many people can empathize or sympathize with, and it has nothing to do with Odell Beckham Jr. beyond anything but his celebrity. This is privilege. This is the definition of privilege. Carlton in Tampa, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Max Kellerman said on First Take this morning that Odell Beckham Jr. is entitled to his feelings, that we're all entitled to our feelings. Well, I'd like to say to Max that that guy working the double shift at Denny's, who is in part paying Odell Beckham's salary when he buys Giants gear or goes to a Giants game, is entitled to believe that Odell Beckham Jr., or is entitled to feel, I guess, that Odell Beckham Jr. is a whiny, self-absorbed, millennial snowflake, and that the Giants will rue the day that they gave him that contract. Because Odell only cares about Odell. And when his teammates, when working with his teammates is not aligned with Odell Beckham Jr.'s feelings, well, he's not going to care. He's going to go out and get a penalty, or he's going to throw a tantrum on the sidelines, or he's going to complain about the fact that he's only being paid, by the way, the $95 million because people want to see him perform on a stage. If Odell, despite all the work he's put in and all of his talents, if he goes out to a field somewhere where there's nobody around, his annual compensation is going to be exactly zero. And yet the guy just doesn't get it. Just plain simply doesn't get it, and he's unlikely to get it now that he's got 5 more pocketfuls of money coming out of it. Contrast that with the Dak Prescotts of the world, or the Russell Wilsons, or the Tom Bradys, or the Aaron Rodgers, who it's all about team, and they're extraordinarily appreciative of the fans and the people that pay their salaries indirectly. And those are the guys you want on your team, not the Odell Beckham Jr.
All right. I appreciate
one more thing I wanted to bring up.
Quickly, yeah.
The New England Patriots should emulate what the Saints just did, what Sean Payton, Bill Belichick's buddy just did, and see if they could pry Tyrod Taylor loose from the Browns, because, they're hankering to get Mayfield on the field. They gave up, or they selected him number 1, and Brady is eventually going to, deteriorate here.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, Carlton.
Yep.
Yeah, not a bad idea. All right, it's been a while since we heard from you, man. Good to hear from you, Carlton. You know what? I got to go here, but sort of what time is? I feel like, Odell, what's he doing with this? Is he self-absorbed? Is he really just saying my problems are real? Is he trying to give you the 360-degree picture of what it is to be a celebrity? Because I wonder, victimhood becomes such a thing in life, so important that it's a way for us to identify with each other. That vulnerability is how we connect. So let me show you the soft spots in my life. Let me show you how life is hard for me in an attempt to connect with people. Because if it is, what a failure, because this is not something anybody can identify with. This isn't. People, listen, Odell, man, your problems are enviable. All right, coming up, we got into it on First Take with other parts of the shop. Some of the things LeBron James said on race and why black athletes and white athletes are treated differently. That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Giants receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is now the highest paid receiver in the NFL.
The end result has been extremely positive for both sides.
You don't have to have one of these big-time, all-world, record-breaking receivers to win in the NFL. So listen, you want to be a part of this conversation. I'm enjoying what we're talking about. We're going to have a good time, and we need to mix it up. But we're about to drop off ESPN News at about 4:30. So grab the ESPN app and stream the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, or on SiriusXM Channel 80. I was talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and the price of celebrity. Chris in D.C., what'd I get wrong?
Man, well, first I want to say I love your show, man. I appreciate getting. It's like my third time getting through. But, man, I just feel like we're walking a thin line when you can say a person's net worth is because somebody makes a lot of money, they don't have feelings. I feel like Odell Beckham he deserves that contract, right or wrong. So these athletes are bred from birth. They go through so much to get to where they're at. Now, you use the Denny's example, which is a good example, but that person at Denny's made that decision not to further their career. They made that decision to be in that where they're at. So I feel like the Odell situation is he worked his tail off to get to where he's at.
Yeah, but Chris, what I'm saying is not that he doesn't deserve the contract he got or that he doesn't deserve the attention he gets in life. What I'm saying is he doesn't get to then turn and bellyache about some of the things that come along with it. And if your price in life, if your trade-off is $95 million in worldwide fame, but occasional selfies and occasionally rude and entitled people, your problems aren't that big. It's Odell's fault, thanks for the call, Chris, that he thought $95 million was going to somehow take all the world's problems away from him. I'm telling you, the guy at Denny's working the double shift, he also has to deal with rude, entitled people. You know a fascinating thing really quick? I know so many times in this society right now, we define people by their politics, their political views, their race, their gender, all these kind of characteristics. I'm going to tell you this. If you said to me, Will, give me one thing, and you only get one thing on how to judge somebody, I'll tell you this. I want to know how somebody treats a waiter. That tells me more about people than anything else. You can tell me how righteous you are with your political beliefs. You can tell me what you do as your hobbies. You can tell me the way you vote. But how do you treat a waiter? That tells me a lot right there. I got into this on First Take this morning because on that same show, The Shop, LeBron James said this about the treatment, the difference between how people treat black athletes and white athletes. He said, and we're doing the same exact S. I'm talking about the phone is on. We're like, yo, get that effing phone out of my face. I'm with my family. And we're out here with our family and we say S and somebody posts it. And if Aaron Rodgers or one of those guys says that S and they post it, somebody's going to be like, hey, you guys should respect Aaron Rodgers. LeBron James thinks in that instance, black athletes and white athletes are treated differently. Let me tell you this. It's true. There's a double standard. Black athletes and white athletes are treated differently. I think the best example of this is one I did on the radio, one realization I came to on the radio with my old friend Kate Fagan when I did a show on the weekends on ESPN Radio. Johnny Manziel's public perception, Johnny Manziel's chances at redemption, I don't know would have been afforded to a black athlete in the same situation as Johnny Manziel. But the example that LeBron gives here is a poor example of the difference in treatment. Number one, the way LeBron describes that encounter, he's being rude to the person asking for the selfie, okay? And if Aaron Rodgers acted the same way, we'd rake Aaron Rodgers over the coal. And when Tom Brady hung up on WEEI, we raked Tom Brady over the coals. It's just a poor example to use LeBron James, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers and rude fans as the difference in how athletes are treated. And for that matter, we got into it because Max Kellerman said something to me today on First Take. He said, Will, I don't think you traffic in white grievance politics. I don't think you're racist. But he said to me, I think you are lacking in empathy and are unaware of your own white privilege. Now, I think, if anything, I can on occasion be a tool because I'm about to throw the sound of myself on First Take. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now of my own show with my own initials on it. So we'd say that's pretty high on the tool list, right, Cerruti?
We had a pretty big discussion pre-show about whether or not that was okay. I said yes, but everyone else is like, nah, it's kind of a loser move.
If I wore it to the park, I think it would be. If I wore it hanging out at a restaurant, it'd be high toolish behavior.
We get it, Will. You have a show.
But on my show right now, wearing the shirt, I don't know. Anyway, Bubba, this segment's going to go a little long because now I'm going to do a more toolish thing. I'm going to throw to myself on First Take, and my response to Max's implication that I don't appreciate my own white privilege.
So I'll take it this way. First of all, Max, you describe me, and I don't take any offense at it. I just think it's inaccurate. You describe me as a white moderate. You use Martin Luther King's very eloquent quote to show the symptom of people who do not appreciate the concept of white privilege. You suggest and you offer, and I appreciate that I'm not dealing in white grievance politics, certainly not racism, but perhaps lacking in empathy or action on some issues that require justice. I think that's what and how you have described me.
Yes, I feel that way, yes,
okay.
In our debates. Yep.
Here's how I would describe myself, Max. I don't speak for anything white. I don't speak for anything racial. I don't speak for any of my superficial, on-the-surface characteristics. I speak as someone who is an individualist. I don't accident into this position. I am not lacking in awareness and arriving at this position. I don't live, despite what people might want to assume about me, in a white bubble and don't expose myself to other parts of this world and other cultures and races. It's not who I am. I got here, where I am, by design. I believe in individualism. I reject concepts like white America and black America. I reject concepts like black Twitter. I reject anything that defines us according to groups on superficial characteristics. I only care about who human beings are as individuals. I cannot tell you I'm infallible. I cannot tell you I'm perfect on this. I don't think human beings are. And so, Stephen A., to your question, I think the problem at its core is that human beings are inherently tribal. We just are. We are on very, very, very superficial and broad-ranging characteristics from sex, gender, race, and we have to do our best to overcome those tribal natures. To me, the answer, the cure that I've sought out by design is to look at people as individuals, as a man. When I see you, Stephen A., I see a man. When you say to me, I speak as a black man, I often don't want to hear you speak that way because I want to hear you as Stephen A. Smith, who grew up in Hollis, Queens, who is a man, who has a point of view, who doesn't adhere to an agenda, who doesn't require groupthink. I think of you in all the best that I can, nuanced in complex ways, that Stephen A. Smith is a man. That's the goal. So when you ask me, how can we do better, and I'll wrap this up, Stephen A., how can we do better? My answer is, for all of us, white Americans, black Americans, to do our best to see each other as individuals.
That was what I said earlier on First Take. If you'll apologize for the toolish nature of wearing your own T-shirt and tossing to yourself on a previous TV show, the reason I did that is I just didn't want to recreate it. I wanted it to be authentic. I wanted it to be the way it was said the first time. I didn't want to repeat it to you here as though it's rehearsed. We're going to continue this conversation on ESPN Radio, on the ESPN app. Go over and stream it. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I should have done this years ago.
Disclaimer, traveling back in time is physically impossible unless you know how to build a functioning time machine. Then by all means, travel 25 years back in time, switch your car insurance to Geico. You could save a bunch of money. While you're there, please prevent your younger self from wearing that sleeveless tuxedo t-shirt, parachute pants, and glitter high tops to your senior prom. And at long last, rectify this horrible crime against nature. Geico is absolved of all liability if you destroy the fabric of time and space.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I'm going to get back to some of your calls here in a moment on the things LeBron James and Odell Beckham Jr. had to say on the new HBO show, The Shop, here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. But let's talk a little football. Let's talk Khalil Mack. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers' new contract. Let's talk to NFL Network reporter Tom Pelissero on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can go and you can follow Tom at Tom Pelissero on Twitter. Tom, what's going on? First, let's just try to figure out what in the world's going on. Are the Raiders going to get Khalil Mack in a Raiders uniform or any uniform this year? Do we have Tom? So we're having a little problem there. Cerruti's he off the phone? So I can hit the lines. I got people.
We're efforting.
All right, let's do this. Let's take one of our calls, and if Tom comes along, we can get to Tom in just a minute. All right. What's that? Okay, Rick in Kentucky. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Rick? Do we have Rick? What's going on?
Maybe it's our phone issue. I don't know.
All right. Here's the deal. Looks like technology is failing us. This is one of those moments when you do what comes. Now, don't you worry, though. I got plenty I want to talk to you about. Here's one thing. Josh Rosen. I can't figure out Josh Rosen. He might just be, and I've gone back and forth on this several times now, he might just end up being a very, very interesting guy. But he knows there's misconceptions about him out there. He knows what people think of him. So listen to this, and let's try to decide together. What's up with Josh Rosen?
One of my interview questions for multiple teams is literally like, so why does everyone think you're an And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. When I'll talk with people and hang out with friends and meet some people or whatever, they're kind of like, you're not a And I'm like, it's one thing when it affects you in the world of football, but when that stuff starts to leak out and affect your actual personal life, it's just annoying. But I mean, the truth will come out in time, and people will understand the man that I am and the man that I've become. Like I said about the competition, this stuff is just out of my control. It's frustrating, but you can't really give much thought to it because there's not much you can really do about it other than just try and prove people wrong.
That's Josh Rosen on SiriusXM Radio. Now, NFL Network reporter Tom Pelissero is on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Tom, you there?
I'm here this time. I take full responsibility, even though I'm pretty sure it's your fault.
I'm sure it is too. Don't worry. Let me ask you about this. I don't want to start with Josh Rosen. I actually want to start with Khalil Mack. Is Khalil Mack going to be on the Raiders or any team this year? What's going to happen here?
It's difficult to think that Khalil Mack is going to risk sitting out games just when you look at the overall picture. He's due $13.8 million. So you're talking about over $800,000 per week that he would be losing out on during the regular season by missing games in order to keep, to continue to be on track in terms of his overall earning power. Missing that level of game checks, that's stuff that's tough to get back. So the question really becomes, at what point he would show up to the Raiders, and is there a scenario where the Raiders would trade away a guy who's already won a Defensive Player of the Year award and is a player at a premium position who's in his prime? What I've been told this week is that the Raiders have gotten a bunch of calls. They've been offered stuff like a first-round pick plus another high pick. They've been offered a significant player. None of that has gotten anybody anywhere. So the general feeling within the league is the Raiders are in no way motivated right now to trade Khalil Mack. It can change, but right now they're not motivated to deal him. And if you even want to start a conversation with John Gruden, Reggie McKenzie and company, you better be prepared to be offering 2 first-round picks and maybe more.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. Tom Pelissero here on the Will Cain Show. So people are offering a 1 and another high pick, but your estimation is that right now it would take 2 1s for the Raiders to move on Khalil Mack?
I mean, I had one executive tell me nobody's gotten anywhere despite all these calls, and they don't know whether it's 2 1s, is it 3 1s? I mean, you're talking about rare things that NFL teams are willing to give up in trades. The compensation, if you were to sign another team's franchise player, would be 2 first-round picks, and that virtually never happens. I know that there's the inevitable reaction is, well, Khalil Mack is so good. He's better than, an unproven first-round pick. But if you're talking about, let's say you're drafted in the middle of the first round, you're hoping a difference maker on a 4-year, $12 million contract. In Mack's case, you'd be passing up then multiple of those players, young, talented, cheap labor, and paying him a top-of-market contract, $22 million plus per year. It's a challenge in a salary cap league to make that type of a deal. It doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, the fact that they've gotten offers of things like a first-round pick and another high pick show you people are willing to do it because of the transformational nature of Khalil Mack's game. It's just hard when you start talking about multiple ones. Those deals just don't happen very often.
Tom Pelissero here on the Will Cain Show. We've heard reports. We had Rich Cimini on the show yesterday. He told us the Jets are in. The Jets are stocking up ammo to try to get Khalil Mack. You said multiple teams reportedly have reached out to the Raiders. Do you have any other names? Who's trying to trade for Khalil Mack?
I would just tell you several teams. I know of multiple teams beyond the Jets that have made that call, that have shown strong interest, and nobody has gotten anywhere. Now, the Jets, they're a logical team because they could use edge help because they just happened to have picked up an extra third-round pick yesterday in that deal with Teddy Bridgewater. But there's not a lot of rosters, if you look around the NFL, that Khalil Mack would not upgrade instantly, but you got to look at who has the cap space to do it, who can make it work in terms of their overall roster picture, the way that they have everything budgeted, and who's willing to part with a really high compensation. Let's not overlook the baseline here, which is that the Raiders have shown no indications to the teams calling that they want to do this deal. They're not motivated. They're not going to take what they can get. It can change, but again, you look at what Mac is due to make this season. You look at the relationships that he has in that building. You look at where he's at contract-wise. You look at the leverage that the Raiders frankly have in terms of having a couple of franchise tags to use beyond this year. And, you would say that the percent chance is going to be relatively high that Mac ultimately is going to show up and be a part of the Raiders.
All right, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Listen, we ran short today. We had technical issues, but I'd love to have you on again, talk about a few more issues going on in the NFL. Thanks, Tom.
You got it.
All right. Tom, by the way, tweeted yesterday about the salary cap hit, the percentage devoted to Aaron Rodgers, the same way I laid out, that the percentage is pretty steep, pretty heavy. Let's keep talking about Josh Rosen, what he told SiriusXM Radio, and your calls on the issues I bring up in the shop. All that's next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is Will Cain.
You can't walk through life that if something you say or something you champion offends one person, then you must stop, because you will not be able to do anything. Josh Rosen's growing on me. I think he's growing on all of us. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. Let's talk about Rosen in just a moment. Let's hit the phone lines here. Grant in New Orleans. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Grant?
Hey, man. Look, I just wanted to say I 150% agree with everything you're saying. And I completely disagree with anybody who's having a debate with somebody, and they need to decide based off what they think of your background or how you look, what box that they can put you in, and then they have to decide whether or not they think you have a point.
You're talking about my debate on First Take today regarding what LeBron James had to say on the shop, my debate with Stephen A. and Max.
100%. Look, here's the weird thing. Just to tell you quick about me. Me and my wife used to both wait tables. My wife tells me all the time, I think everybody should have to wait tables for at least a year of their life so that they can understand their pay is directly based off of what people think of them. Let me tell you something. Not to tie this into with somebody else. If Des Bryant treated people better, he'd probably be in the league right now. Maybe he should have waited tables for a year. You know what I'm saying? Look, you can't put people into a box, man. I grew up single mom, very poor. Now I own a real estate company. I do great, but based on that, I'm making a year what LeBron makes every 4 days.
Right.
And so if somebody told me about my privilege, I'm like, well, the dude who's telling me my opinion doesn't matter because of privilege, he's got $500 million. My children, despite the look, I'm in probably the top 4 or 5% of all earners. My children have no shot of having anywhere near the type of future as LeBron's kids. Same thing with a ton of people's kids. Now then, that's not to say that there are not some problems that individual races face that are more proportionate to them that we have to deal with as a society.
Right.
However, when you have $500 million of net worth, you're a little bit beyond that. And you can't co-opt that and say, well, look, that's me because look at the color of my skin. And I'm like, well, look at the size of your bank account.
I hear you, Grant.
Trust me.
I do. I hear you, man. I appreciate the call. Really good stuff. I'd say there's two thoughts that you sparked there for me. Number one, I hear it all the time. I'm accused of it all the time. White privilege explains your point of view. Max alluded to that today, that I'm ignorant of my white privilege. It's a blind spot for me. White privilege, when it's lobbed that way in the middle of a debate, and I would tell Max this, but look, it's an ad hominem attack. You know what ad hominem is? It means it's attacking me as a person, not my point of view. It's telling me that I'm incapable as a person. You're attacking the messenger and not the message. I do my best at all occasions to avoid ad hominem attacks. You should always be able to address the issue on its face, on the surface. And if you want to get into a contest of what our lives would show, if you want to talk about the choices we make, the ways that we go about our life, I'm ready. I'm ready for these ad hominem comparisons. I'm ready, and I'm not holding myself out, and I hope you heard in that first take. I don't ever want to tell you I'm perfect, and I've got some perfect worldview, and I don't. What I'm saying is not this. I've seen people say this trite. Will doesn't doing the I don't see color thing. No. In fact, I think we talk about it on this show openly because the truth of the matter is it's one of the little wonderful things about this world. I see our differences as pluses. That's the literal color of life. That's the beautiful part of it. I'm not preaching that I don't see color, but I'm saying the goal in the end is to treat each other as individuals, as men. The other thing that Grant pointed out is I really truly do believe you can judge a man on many things. Politics, background. If I only had one thing, I'd judge him on how he treats the waitstaff. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Small business protection just got easier. With more than 30 coverage options available, Progressive has you covered. More at progressivecommercial.com. I want to play this one more time because this dude, Josh Rosen on Sirius XM Channel 80, Mad Dog Radio, not 80. I got you. I see you. Already going for the button, Bubba. Channel 82? 4.
Let them worry about it.
Okay. Sirius, Mad Dog Radio. Josh Rosen said this. He's starting to win me over.
One of my interview questions for multiple teams is literally like, so why does everyone think you're an and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like when I'll talk with people and hang out with friends and meet some people or whatever, they're kind of like, you're not a and I'm like, like it's one thing when it affects you in the world of football, but when that stuff starts to leak out and affect your actual like personal life, it's just annoying. But I mean, the truth will come out in time, and people will understand the man that I am and the man that I've become. Like I said about the competition, this stuff is just out of my control. It's frustrating, but you can't really give much thought to it because there's not much you can really do about it other than just try and prove people wrong.
That's Adam Shine Show on Mad Dog Radio. What's up?
I think it's relatable to you.
I feel that way, honestly. I do. Because I don't hear myself in that?
It's 100% you, because I'll have people come up to me and be like, oh, Will Cain. And you're like, actually, if you get to know him, he's like pretty good dude.
Pretty good or really good?
Pretty. Let's not go too far. And I think it's the same thing with Rosen. Oh, you're not a tool. I'm shocked by this. Like, yeah, I'm not a tool. Like, this is just the image of me. And it's, you guys should be best friends.
Yeah, how do you balance
I already want him to be my best friend.
You want Josh Rosen to be your best friend?
I love him.
If I said to you could choose between Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. Huh?
The answer is Jay Cutler.
No, I'm just...
I want Jay Cutler to know that.
No, but those four, you get to be best friends with one of those four. Baker, Sam, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen. You're picking...
It's Baker or Rosen. It's probably Baker, but Rosen's close.
Is it Baker? I want Baker as my quarterback. I don't know if he's your best buddy.
I want to drink beers with Baker.
That's also different. I didn't say drink beers with. Don't you worry that if you're best buddies with Baker, everywhere you go, it's like, hey, it's all about Baker again. And he's doing that thing, and he's being Baker, and, you know, forever you're over there in the corner.
Everybody has that friend. You don't think Rosen's that way, though?
But yes.
Exactly. So,
but I don't know. That's his image, and I listen to this, and I'm like, Baker, I'm going to tell you something about Rosen, what this reveals for me, okay? He has one of the best characteristics I like in other people. He's self-aware. He knows who he is, and he knows what other people think about him. And he's just walking through the world self-aware. If you're self-aware, we can get somewhere. We may not be able to get all the way, but we can get somewhere. I had another point on this before you said he was your best friend. You want to be your best friend? I don't know. Maybe it was that I'm only pretty good, not real good.
Yeah, listen. You're pretty good. Pretty good guy.
Is listen your verbal tick? Like before you say something,
listen.
You say.
Listen.
I've been noticing these verbal
ticks. Yeah, I say that a lot.
I brought it up today. I've heard Howard Stern talking about how everybody on MSNBC says sorta. It's their I'm a smart person verbal tick, sorta. You know, you're sorta looking for your point, but you're kind of trying to give off the idea that you're smart, but you just sorta can't find the exact point. So it's sorta projecting that you're filling blanks here and there. Sorta. You know another one that I'm hearing a lot? I know this is obvious, but like. But not like a crutch, like a cool guy.
Stop the hammering!
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
It's been a long off-season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. Age and state restrictions apply. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
College football. It kicks off tonight, and we've got 3 games for me personally, that I'm going to be hugely dialed into this Saturday. One, forgive me my personal indulgences, will be the University of Texas against Maryland. Then, Washington against Auburn, a game that has massive college football playoff implications. And finally, Notre Dame, Michigan. Also, huge bearing on who's going to be making those final 4 spots. But I ask you this, if you had one game and one game only, live or die, win or lose, and you had your choice, Nick Saban or Jim Harbaugh, who would you choose to coach that game? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-729-3776. Just walking the hallways here during our commercial break, grabbed myself a little glass of water, and ran into Hall of Fame General Manager Bill Polian. Bill and I have a nice little up and down, never know, love or hate relationship. And I said to Bill, just in passing, all right, Bill, what do you give up for Khalil Mack? You want to guess what Bill Polian's price for Khalil Mack was?
I don't think he would trade for Khalil Mack.
Really? Nothing. Stay on the sidelines.
He seems like the draft type, don't overspend on one guy, cap management type dude.
I definitely think he's a cap management type guy. And Jeff Saturday was on our show yesterday talking about how Polian told him, Jeff, I can make you the highest paid center, or I can make you top 3 and support the rest of the team. So definitely, he's not a blow out your wallet for one guy. I haven't heard Polian on Aaron Rodgers, but I'm going to guess you got to give Aaron Rodgers whatever it takes to keep him. And his price for Khalil Mack was 2 1s and a 2. That's what you give up to bring Khalil Mack in the door.
Whoa.
Yep. 2 1s and a 2. One of the other conversations we're having today is Odell Beckham Jr. and his view on fame and celebrity. He was on LeBron James' show, The Shop, on HBO, and he compared being a famous celebrity to at times feeling like a zoo animal. He said it's rough, it's not cool, doesn't feel good. People sometimes call out, Odell, dance, like I'm a show punk, a show monkey or something, like I'm a puppet. You know what I mean? And it's like, to me, that doesn't feel good. But it's like, damn, that's what life became. I think, cry me a river, Odell. I think in the world's problems, the scope and the context of what everybody deals with, your $95 million world fame and celebrity that you've sought out, the attention that you court from every aspect of your life, from the paparazzi to your hairstyle to your end zone celebrations, have said, look at me. And if the price of all of that is an occasional selfie, or the occasional rude or entitled fan out there that's excited to see you, it's a small price to pay. Everyone deals with rude and entitled people. Everybody walking the face of the earth. $95 million doesn't cure that. And the dude doing the double shift at Denny's deals with the same kind of people, but he walks home with $10 an hour checks. Your problems are enviable, Odell. But P.I. in Florida, you disagree with me, P.I. What's up?
Yeah, well, I disagree, and this is why I disagree. I think that same question you asked about people, how they treat waiters or the waitresses, is the same. It can apply to how do you treat the millionaires, the people who you think their money means that they become robots. Like, Odell's price to pay was in the gym, in college, and in high school. If he doesn't like taking pictures all the time, that's okay. Now, if he's out here cussing people out and knocking phones out of people's hands and acting the fool, that's one thing. But if I'm sitting in the barbershop with my homies and I say, hey, man, I really get tired of students walking up to me and feeling like I always have to answer their question because I teach their class. Like, I don't always want to answer your question. So what's the difference between that? Because he makes $95 million, that doesn't change him being a human being. He's still a person. It's okay to say it, just like Josh Rosen just said. It's frustrating that people think he's an a-hole, right? That doesn't say that because he makes a lot of money that he shouldn't care at all because people call him that. He's still a person. He has feelings. It's okay to just have your feelings. That doesn't mean you get ripped or, oh, cry me a river. Like I just told my homeboy, it sucks sometimes. That's all right.
All right, P.I., really quickly, because I feel like buried in that entire thing, which was great, you left a little detail there that I have to follow up on. Are you a college professor?
Well, yeah, I teach classes. Yeah, I'm working on my PhD. I'm almost done.
Go get it, P.I. Appreciate it, man. Good call. I don't deny. I don't doubt that it's annoying. I don't deny that Odell's a human being. I don't deny that occasion it can stink when people are rude. My point is this, man. I understand he's with his homeboys, and I understand he's just giving you a 360-degree picture of what fame might be like. What I'm telling you is, if I came on this radio show and I told you what a hard knock life it was because I have to get up at 4:30 sometimes to make it to First Take and then come do a 3-hour show with you, I would sound like a jackhole. I think I said that yesterday too, didn't I? I did talk about my hard knock life. The point is this, man. Your problems are small. And if a student wants to come up and talk to you on occasion and ask you a question, it's a small price to pay for the fact that you got a job teaching students. And if a person is excited to take a selfie with you, it's a small price to pay to have $95 million in your bank account and be a worldwide celebrity. It's not that the problems don't exist, and it's not that the feelings aren't real. The question is, how much do you empower your own feelings? The question is how important they are to you or to anyone else. And you might, just might, even though they're real, contextualize them. See what everybody else is feeling. Find out if it's really worth the bellyache. The Will Cain Show is reminding you that you can listen to all the hours of the show on your smart speaker by asking it to play ESPN Radio, or you can ask for your local ESPN radio station by name. One more, Sean in Missouri.
Said all the hours? Just want to confirm.
When I'm doing that.
All the hours?
Yes, all of the hours.
All right, cool. All the hours.
Do you know when I do that? I swear. I'm like, okay, Bubba just won't get me on that one. I swear, at this point in the damn show history, I'm walking around on eggshells, afraid that you're going to yell at me about missing a break or messing up a read. And halfway into that read, do you think I didn't go, how do I segue? I've already...
All the hours.
It's like when you're walking, say I'm on a tightrope, and I can feel that step. I'm about to lose my balance, but I don't want anybody to see, so I swing it back around and act like I intended that.
Just trying to bring some accountability to the show.
So you're constantly doing the show in fear of Bubba?
It's getting there, Cerruti.
Wow.
I love it.
He's a way
we want this thing run.
What did he yell at me at the end of the show yesterday? Anybody remember what he yelled at me at the end of the show yesterday?
I don't remember. I don't know. What was that?
What was it, Cerruti?
Bubba, share.
I'm sure it'll be part of tomorrow's
Let me guess,
mistakes.
The lookie was 7.2 seconds long.
This is before we even got to that.
You want to know, Cerruti? You want to know? Travis, you want to hear? He said, why do you have to be the worst radio host we have? Or something like that. Why are you the worst one we have?
Because he completely botched the hard out at the end. He stopped just 10 seconds early, so...
Where was the count?
He was receiving it. It was also on the screen.
I know. There was no count. You think if I had a count that I would stop 10 seconds early? But I will say this. You don't usually start a count before 10 seconds. I like to be unpredictable. Sean in Missouri, right? Are you unpredictable, Sean? Get right to it.
I'm going to tell you that. Not really unpredictable, maybe a little off-center, but not necessarily unpredictable. What I'm going to go with is I somewhat agree with what you're saying about the entitlement issues. I don't think it's the fans that are entitled here. Odell Beckham, he had people that helped him make it along the way, that sacrificed for him or what have you. He got his money, and when have you ever seen him give back? I think it's his sense of entitlement. If you compare it to a sport like tennis, and maybe it's apples and oranges, when you see these guys, these tennis players, come off the court after playing 5 hard sets and the heat and everything, they take the time, they sign autographs, they sign balls, they appreciate their fans. The problem with NFL players today, regardless of where they come from or color, is I don't think they necessarily appreciate the fans anymore. You see them more standing up on benches, yelling, screaming, wanting to jump in the seats, trying to get at somebody who maybe said something bad. You know what? Embrace them. You know what? These people paid hard money. They bought your uniform. They want a selfie. They want an autograph. Throw them a bone.
All right, Sean, thanks for the call. I don't think I can agree with you. I don't know that that's true. I don't think I have any proof that NFL players don't appreciate their fans. I see the tennis players, you're right, at the end of the game, going into the match, going to the stands and offering up autographs, but I see NFL players doing that at the end of practices at training camp as well. I don't think that one was fair, Sean. I think that the NFL is a big league, and there's some guys that might not, but on the vast majority, I think they do appreciate it. And I can't even say that about Odell. I just think Odell doesn't appreciate that his problems aren't that big in the whole context of the world. I'll tell you one guy that doesn't appreciate some things. That's Jalen Ramsey. What I mean is he doesn't appreciate some of the other players around the NFL. He's got some more things to say about some more guys. I'll share that with you. And if you had one game you needed to win, who would you choose to coach your team in college football? Jim Harbaugh or Nick Saban? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Feel the Cain. Will Cain.
All right, so my list is top 5 90s frontmen, parentheses, who are no longer living.
Okay.
Eddie Vedder, Billy Corgan, these guys are not applicable. That's not a word.
They're not what?
Never mind.
No. Somebody grab that. Somebody grab that, please.
Damn it.
Looks like I'm not the only one who walks a verbal tightrope from time to time. There's the linguistic referee himself, Bubba.
I held myself accountable.
Is that what you're telling yourself there? That's the difference between the two of us? Like I just try to brush on past my verbal miscues?
No, I'm just saying I hold everyone accountable. You, me, whoever.
All right.
It's my job.
Let me rename you the referee, the umpire.
All the hours.
That's going to make... Is that going to make its way into Friday's mess-ups?
I don't know. Maybe. It was pretty... We have a lot this week. I don't know if we have enough time for that.
Do we really?
Yeah. It's been
you got a lot in the bank?
A lot of names. A lot of... that day where you were, late on sleep.
3 drinks in?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. You can tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I don't know how this debate has cropped up, but it seems to be a debate. So, okay, I'm in. One game only. Do or die. Win or lose. Who's the coach in college football you most want to have? Is it Nick Saban or is it Jim Harbaugh? What are you already upset about, Travis? You upset that Urban Meyer's not mentioned already?
No, he's just not a good in-game coach.
Which one?
Harbaugh.
Well, here's the thing. I don't get this debate. So look, I've got my experience wading into difficult debates. I'm happy to wade into one that's easy. I think this is a no-brainer.
He's not even top 5.
One game, I'm taking Saban. You don't have to yell at me, Travis. I'm in Saban. I don't even think it's a tough call. It's somehow like, I feel like this is the same thing with the Brady-Rodgers debate. Like, if you're consistent and you put up numbers over and over and over, somehow that takes away from your single talent. Like, in other words, because you built a dynasty that's lasted a decade, somehow your question in a one-game sample size has been increased. This is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. This is the analogy I used on this one today on First Take. Everyone walks around, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest pass thrower, his talent. It's like Aaron Rodgers lays bricks like nobody you've ever seen. His brick-laying ability is so precise and on time. The amount of mortar he puts in between bricks is unparalleled in history. And in the meantime, while everybody's lauding his bricklaying ability, Tom Brady's building the Great Wall of China over here. He's won 5 championships. And I don't understand, like, you do a lot, and now people assume, well, you can't do a little. You win a bunch of championships, but for one game, maybe Jim Harbaugh. I mean, what is the argument for Jim Harbaugh over Nick Saban in one game? And I'm looking at one guy because we got one guy on our show who's actually in this. And here's the thing. I'm not making this up. I've seen this. This debate's out there right now, right? I mean, it's not always might be on another network, but I've seen this debate.
Stumbled across it.
What?
We stumbled across it.
I'll take Mark D'Antonio over Harbaugh for one game.
Would you take Mark D'Antonio over Urban Meyer?
No, let's not get drunk now.
Okay, that's right. Just forget over there. That's always the comment section of Bucknuts sitting over there working the shotgun position on our show today. How many times do you post in Bucknuts a week?
I don't even go to that website.
Liar.
I'm dead serious.
Would you just quit recently?
No, I haven't been on that website in years.
Is that like saying I don't drink? After you got drunk last weekend, you sworn it off?
11 Warriors. That's where I go.
How many times a day do you post on 11 Warriors?
I haven't posted in probably 2 years. I'll see if I can check.
All right. In the meantime, Cerruti.
Yeah.
You would take Jim Harbaugh in a one-game sample size?
I'm just saying I don't think it's that ridiculous to say that you would take Harbaugh. Like somebody on another network said they would take Harbaugh, and you guys are like, that guy, what an idiot. And I'm like, actually, and you know me, I'm usually not the guy. I'm usually the guy who's being like, these idiots on these other networks, blah, 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 blah. But I understand why you would do this. This guy, Harbaugh, he's had a rough couple of years at Michigan. He hasn't lived up to expectations.
Harbaugh. I don't know why that's funny to me.
But
this guy, Harbaugh.
He took San Diego, not San Diego State, San Diego, to a whole nother level that they didn't belong to. Then he took Stanford to a level that they don't belong to. Then he took the 49ers to a level that they hadn't been in years and basically made Alex Smith into a Pro Bowl level quarterback.
Yeah, but by your analogy, what he's proven to be then is a rehabilitator.
I think he gets the most out of he gets the most out of his talent. So he may not, like, Saban's a better recruiter, Saban's a better CEO of a program. If I want 5 years of a program to build, yeah, I'm obviously taking Saban because he's going to get the best guys. He's going to put the best guys around him. He's going to run the best ship. But Jim Harbaugh,
but at what point has Saban given you a single reason to question his in-game coaching?
Because I think, listen, recent history would suggest Saban always has the best players. He does. He always his teams are always typically better than everyone he's playing. That's not the case with Harbaugh.
What was the move in one particular game that you said, look at Harbaugh's adjustments, that's the one I'm going to hang my hat on? What did he do in a game that says to you, in-game coaching, I'm going with Harbaugh?
It's not necessarily the in-game coaching. We're saying one game. It's the lead up to it. It's built. It's
how big a lead up?
It's making his roster better than it actually is.
Oh, so now you dug yourself a hole.
No.
Because when you gave yourself more than one game, like the week leading up, now you're gone back to Saban. He's the builder. He's the guy that...
No. If, for example, like leading up to a bowl game, you get that time to prepare. I don't think it's that ridiculous to say Harbaugh is going to get the most out of that team if they're both equal.
If we go with the most recent example of a guy making adjustments in a one-game sample size that directly affects the impact on the game, the outcome of the game, if we just do that, who's got the brass stones?
Oh, it's Tua. I get that.
He benched his starting quarterback.
He didn't have a choice. We had this discussion.
Get out of town.
He had no choice.
That was a brass.
It wasn't. He had no
brass
choice.
stones move to bench Hurts and bring in Tua.
I totally disagree.
Then why doesn't Harbaugh bench some of his bad quarterbacks in these past couple years and go with the young talented guy?
Because there's a worse.
He's not a good in-game coach.
He doesn't have Tua on the bench. That's why he doesn't have this unbelievable Hawaiian lefty who's like.
Why hasn't Harbaugh developed this builder of talent? Harbaugh. Where's his quarterback at Michigan? Where is he?
Well, he's got Shea Patterson now. That's the problem. You're playing into my point.
No.
Yes, you are. He hasn't had any quarterback for the entire time he's been at Michigan.
He's recruited 4- and 5-star quarterbacks. He hasn't been able to develop it.
Yeah, you're saying he builds talent. He had Andrew Luck at Stanford, and now he's recruited Shea Patterson to come from Mississippi. Where's the quarterback he developed? Of all the things
Smith?
Alex Smith at San Francisco is what you're pointing at.
He's got Dylan McCaffrey.
Number one overall pick.
He was biggest bust of all time we're talking about.
Number
and they turned
one
him into
overall
a Pro Bowler and has gotten him 2 different contracts with 2 different teams.
Where is the Michigan quarterback? This developer of men.
Hopefully this is it with Shea Patterson.
Dylan McCaffrey, 4-star recruit on the roster right now. What has he done?
This is. I'm getting text.
All I'm saying.
Text me. This is the
can
first
we just
take.
calm down?
All I want to say
is it's not as ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. It's not that ridiculous.
Well, that's now you're pulling the ripcord on the conversation. All you're trying to do is
no. You wanted to put me in this box of saying I'm taking. I'm just saying it's not that ridiculous.
Look, I'm getting text from First Take producers. It says Saban's a winner, and then it says
cool.
This is oh no, I'm not done. Same thing. Where's the quarterback Harbaugh's developed?
Brandon Peters, 4-star recruit on the roster. Hasn't done anything.
Harbaugh book Showalter.
Saban hasn't had a quarterback in how long?
I got to go. Come on. Where you haven't blown the whistle, referee. I'm way over time.
For the record, December 20th, 2016, last post.
That was your last post on 11 Warriors? Get with it, man. Bucknuts is where it's at now anyway. All right. Jalen Ramsey got some more things to say, this time about the Patriots. Next in the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
He's a bad man.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will be, quote, as happy as a clam, unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately verify clams even experience the complex human emotional state known as happiness. As an invertebrate mollusk living half submerged on the ocean floor with no arms, legs, or wireless access, what's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today. Pronounced regionally as chowder. Chowder. Oh, that's so fun to say. What were we talking about again?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The co-host of Spain and Fitz. Woohoo! Jason Fitz. He's also, by the way, the host of the College Football Show live on Twitter every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Trevor Scales. He's joining me now. What's up, man?
Just living the dream. How are you?
Been better because my man Cerruti over there is twisting off. Let me just bring you up to speed, okay?
Okay.
Here's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a knockdown drag out. Somehow this has cropped up. I didn't create this, Fitz. Maybe it was on another network, but I've seen this debate now. One game, live or die, win or lose. Who do you want to coach your team? Jim Harbaugh or Nick Saban?
Nick Saban.
Right, because you are on the rational side of the world. Our man Travis, myself, it's a no-brainer. It's Nick Saban. Our man Cerruti back there is so adamant that at this point he's hanging on like to a cliff with a fingernail with. It's not crazy to say it's Harbaugh. Now, hold on. During the commercial break, the music maven, you know who?
Yeah.
Cerruti, Saccone? Yeah. He came in and said, wow. Mild-mannered Steven Cerruti. In 6 or 7 years, I've never seen you get that worked up. As I walked into the studio to come greet you for joining the show, were you not yelling at me down the hallway about this?
I was a little worked up. And by the way, I get to that level sometimes. Like we had a sort of a Russell Westbrook argument where I went to like 100 at least on the scale.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've seen you go there.
I just don't do that all the time.
And look, I get it. I was on First Take with you yesterday. Sometimes you lose arguments to will, and it doesn't feel good, Cerruti. I understand.
I feel fine. Don't worry about it.
I feel like it doesn't feel good. You know you're getting your butt kicked. You know you're, as he said, skating around the argument for whatever that one particular one wasn't. And sometimes you just got to cut losses, man. This is one where you cut your losses. You just admit that you said it in a moment of passion and that you're sorry and you move forward.
I've had days to think about this because we've been talking about this topic for the better part of this week.
Aaron Rodgers' contract did push this to a different day.
Yeah, well.
And I haven't gone. All I'm saying is that it's not as ridiculous as the rest of you are making it seem to be.
Yes,
this guy, Harbaugh, 30 NFL teams would hire him tomorrow.
That doesn't mean anything.
How many championship games has he coached in and won?
He's made a Super Bowl.
Did he win it?
He didn't, but he's made it way further than Saban ever did.
You got one game, and you're going to take a guy that's never won a
championship. Saban flamed out in 2 years in Miami. Saban couldn't coach anything in the NFL.
Sure, that's fine.
Here it comes.
That's fine, but you got one game.
We're both getting red here.
You got one game to try and win a championship, and you're going to take a guy that's never won a championship?
He's taken 3 different things. San Diego, Stanford, and the 49ers, and made them exponentially better than they were before that. Yes, he's underachieved a little bit at Michigan. I think everyone could say that we thought he would be better. But
hey, how many teams do you think would hire Saban?
In the NFL?
Yeah.
I don't think that many.
Come on.
I really don't.
Can we also
the
just
demand
say,
would obviously be in Harbaugh's favor.
Again, I'm going to take the Will Cain tutoring that I got yesterday. And I'm going to play mediator here, and I'm going to say, Cerruti, you have the right answer to the wrong question. The question isn't who do you want to build a program for you, because you just made a very valid argument for how Jim Harbaugh can help build a program. He makes every program he's at better. That doesn't mean, though, that if you have one game, the guy that builds a better program is the guy that you want to coach the one game.
Exactly. My point is that on a level playing field, if the players are average, I think he elevates his roster more than Saban would. Saban is always coaching with the best players.
Man, see, I think what you do, and I can't remember if you do this yesterday on First Take.
If it's a compliment, I definitely did it.
You start penalizing people for their own success. It's a common condition. I think everybody does it. Emmitt Smith's not any good because he didn't live up to his own standard, right? At some point when you rush for so many yards and in 1 year you happen to drop down a little, oh, you're not that great. You're penalizing Saban for being great over a decade by saying he can't win a single game. And you're penalizing him also for recruiting great players. I don't know how we even it out. I give you the premise. What was the famous saying from Bum Phillips, Wade Phillips' dad? The definition of a good coach is he could win with yours, and then he did it in a very much better country colloquialism, but he could win a game with yours and walk to the other side and beat you with his, or something like that. Whatever. He could take either team and win the game. That was Bum Phillips. But look, man, we can never know the truth, but you got to go with the guy that Fitz points out has won a championship, did bench his starting quarterback, made an in-game maneuver that directly resulted in the winning of a game,
which, again,
versus the guy that can't develop a quarterback.
I will say that he had no choice but to do that, so I'm not going to give him credit for that.
Well, how did he have no choice?
Because Jalen was playing horribly.
And you don't think that there are coaches in college football currently that are so dug in they'll leave their horrible quarterback in when he's won as many games as Jalen Hurts has won?
Nothing to lose. Nothing to lose.
Hey, do you think this about Jim Harbaugh?
I
real
love
quick,
Saban,
do you think this about Jim Harbaugh? Yeah, I know you love Jim
Everybody
Harbaugh, though.
Does.
You like Nick Saban, you love Jim Harbaugh. Do you think this?
He's a bad man. Who, Saban or Harbaugh?
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh's a bad man.
Have you heard that?
Hold on, here's Stephen. This is Cerruti's Stephen A. impression. Okay, he got himself boxed into a corner the other day, and we made him do his Aaron Rodgers bad man. Here goes. This is the best Stephen A. that Cerruti can do.
He's a bad man.
Wow, that's almost as bad as his take. I mean, that's
not great. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
Jason Fitz of Spain and Fitz hanging out here on the Will Cain Show. We're going to talk a little bit of college football in just a minute because he's the host of the College Football Show live on Twitter every Saturday, 7 Eastern with Trevor Scales. Jalen Ramsey gave an interview to our own Mina Kimes, and he had some more things to say about various people in the NFL. Here's a couple samples, Fitz. He said, Gronk, not that good. When kind of pushed, what are you nodding about?
No, I'm just nodding. I'm not surprised.
Are you nodding in agreement?
No, I'm not surprised that Jalen Ramsey said this. He's the best trash talker in the NFL.
Is he?
Yes.
Because at the point you're saying Gronk's not that good, I think you start. Hey, if Jalen Ramsey walked in right now, is he a good hang?
Oh, no, he's a good hang if he's your buddy. Like, if you're already tight, Jalen's the guy you want to go with, like, everywhere. If he's your buddy's buddy, you don't want him around at all. Look, it's easy to trash talk you and me, right? Like, if somebody wants to come in and say, Jason Fitz absolutely stinks, like, there's no traction in that. You're not trash talking. If somebody comes in and says Stephen A. doesn't know what he's doing, now you're trash talking. Jalen Ramsey is going for the big dogs. If you're hunting, you go for the big dogs.
I like that. So that's why he went after Gronk. But the problem is it's so blatantly untrue. Gronk's great.
Well, so's Jalen Ramsey. I mean, that
doesn't give you a license to tell lies.
Great is relative, right? Like the guy that plays pickup basketball with guys like us that's really good, and we're all like, oh man, he's great. I haven't played with Russillo. I haven't had the honor. He hasn't asked me. Thanks, Ryan. But let's say we'll use that example. Beefcake is playing basketball and he's great. And we're like, oh man, he's great. Well, he's great in that circle. But then the minute he goes to play with all the guys here that used to play in the NBA, not that great.
Well, what does that mean? Gronk's not great compared to who?
That means that Jalen Ramsey thinks compared to his own skill set, Gronk's not all that.
Get out of here.
I'm okay with it.
You're ice skating around that
No,
argument.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
One more thing on Jalen Ramsey. He said this, that the Cowboys coaching staff was all saying they wanted to take him, but Jerry Jones, this is according to Jalen Ramsey, bigfooted it and said we're taking Zeke Elliott. As an extension of that, Ramsey said he will never play for the Dallas Cowboys unless the Joneses sell the team. There is a level of hubris in Jalen Ramsey that you do start to get to where you like it. Maybe you do like it. I don't know if he's a good hang, but
here's the one thing though. I got one qualm with everything Jalen Ramsey said, right? I've always said this with psychics. If I could take like the one busted friend in my group to a psychic, let him go in first, and then he comes out the other side. And what did she say? Well, the psychic said, I'm terrible. I'm never going to get my life straight. I'm going to date 472 women and have 15 kids, and it's all going to go downhill. That's a psychic I will go see every single week because they're giving it real, right? If Jalen Ramsey in that interview would have said, yes, by the way, Blake Bortles, trash, then I'm taking the whole
right.
thing.
That's the big hole in his game.
If he would have been honest about Blake, then I'd come in and say, fantastic. I'm buying everything you're selling.
That's the big hole in his game.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell the truth about Blake. All right. Coming up, Fitz is going to stay hanging out. Let's talk a little college football, not just Saban versus Harbaugh, but the games we have coming up this weekend on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. In just a minute, Jason and I are going to do this. I made him do this in the commercial break. Every year in the college football playoffs, because I asked him, are you going to make picks or are you going to pick? He said, I think I'm going to go chalk. I said, you can't go chalk. There's always at least one team from outside the top 10. I believe that's historically accurate, right? Always one team below the AP top 10 who makes their way into the college football playoffs. So here in just a minute, we're both going to give you who we think that team is going to be this year. But before I do, you were also explaining to me that you're rooting actively all season long against the SEC. Why?
Thank you, Twitter. Well, here's the thing. I want, realistically, I want playoff expansion. I want 8 teams in the college football playoff. And we've seen teams get left out of the playoffs before. It doesn't change anything. The one way that we can actually affect change in that sense is for the SEC to be left out. If there are no SEC teams in the playoffs, there's a third of the country that will absolutely revolt. We'll have to check in on everybody every week to make sure people are okay. And suddenly they'll want the system blown up. The best way for that to happen, because I think 8 is better for the game of college football,
Agreed.
is to make sure that the SEC is completely out of it. So if SEC fans have to suffer for 1 year so that we all get more playoff, I'm good with that.
That's going to make you popular. Why'd you fist pump anti-SEC? I get buck nuts over here. I get the comment section of 11.
Listen, I'm sick of it.
It's 11 Warriors.
Whatever. You're sick of SEC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What happened?
I don't like how
because Big Ten fans are just so much better.
Doesn't stink.
Oh, the number, I mean, Travis can sit here on the soapbox of holiness, and the reality of it is Big Ten fans have been yelling about how they're the toughest guy, which, by the way, my conference is tougher than your conference. Is like, my dad can beat up your dad. There's no way to really prove it, so it's easy for everybody to say, everybody will make their case, and nobody's changing their mind.
It just means more, though, Fitz.
Oh, well, that is obnoxious.
That's why I hate it.
I will agree with that.
And it's the Big Ten East.
It's also insufferable.
Big Ten
Just
East
root
is
for
the
your
best.
team, okay?
The Big Ten East is the best.
Oh, for the record, I want Michigan to lose this weekend.
Could
I
you
don't root
imagine?
for the teams.
Could you? No, but in the national championship game, many college football fans do. Could you imagine, as a Cowboys fan, watching the Super Bowl and saying, man, I hope the Giants win?
Could I imagine doing this? No, I don't believe in rooting for conferences. I believe that you have rivals and you don't flip to become their fans when a championship game comes along. I think it's pitiful that Florida fans root on Alabama, or anybody from the SEC thinks Alabama's wins shine on them. I think they are there and you are where you are because they've been destroying you along the way. And the fact that you start rooting for them is embarrassing for you. That's what I think.
I knew I loved you, Will Cain.
All right, let's do this really quickly. Every year, outside the top 10, there is one team that creeps up into the college football playoffs. I'm going to make my picks tomorrow. By the way, also tomorrow, we're going to do another music show.
Oh, good.
We're going to do the quintessential outlaw country song. Don't.
No,
we'll do it. No. I know you have opinions on that. What else we doing, Bubba? Gangster rap?
I think he's a couple of rap ones, right? I don't know.
Definitely
I'm in on that
rap.
one, too. I've got some thoughts on that as well.
We need better categories again tomorrow. Quintessential rock. Outlaw country, gangster rap. What are we going to do?
A boy band song? You guys should have a quintessential boy band song.
Oh, that could be good.
That's a great one.
What about what's like sex R&B? Like the R&B that's like full on, not like I love you, but what I'm about to do with you.
Like Usher?
Like Jodeci.
Well, that's a whole nother level.
I'm so uncomfortable now.
All right, so that's all tomorrow. Who's the team outside the top 10 in Jason Fitz's estimation who is going to be in the college football playoffs?
The Big Ten East is the best division in all of college football, so I'm going to pick a Big Ten East team, and I think the most balanced that's outside the top 10 is Michigan State. So as much as we like to trash on some of the things around the Big Ten in general, and as hard as it is to say that Michigan State's going to have that kind of success, I don't love Wisconsin's quarterback situation in general, so I don't feel Wisconsin. Michigan State's got a lot to be really excited about this year.
The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone, on your ESPN app. There's actually some good teams below 10 in the AP Top 25. I think Michigan State's good, like you said. Stanford, because I don't think the Pac-12 is that great. I like Washington, but that's one team Stanford has to jump above.
And Bryce Love is epic. So
Michigan is 14, but the team I'm going to take out of all of these that could leap up into the playoffs is Notre Dame at 12. They don't have the conference affiliation, but Notre Dame's pretty good this year.
Well, and Notre Dame's Notre Dame. If they're good, they'll get in, right?
Exactly. That's who I'd say of anybody below the top 10 who makes the playoffs. All right, Jason, it's been fun. We'll be checking out the Twitter show.
Thank you.
And in about, 5 minutes, we're going to be listening to Spain.